Welcome to the Startup Support Surgery podcast, where we light the entrepreneurial spark in medics and healthcare professionals. Join me, Dr. Jo Watkins, GP, business coach and co-founder of The How People, on a journey to discover where your medical know-how meets the business world. This will help you find some clarity on how to balance work, passions and family so that you can gain more freedom and control over your life, but also continue to help people, which is actually why most of us went into medicine to start with. Embarking on this entrepreneurial adventure is not easy. It is a roller coaster of emotions, but it's hugely rewarding and exciting in the process. Drawing on my 20 years of blending medicine and business as a GP, I am here to share experiences, insights and lessons. Expect lively chats, expert interviews and real-life stories from medics who have taken their own path. Let's break free from traditional healthcare norms and explore more innovative ways of making a real difference to people's health and well-being, along with paving the way for a brighter future for us as healthcare professionals. Oh, don't miss my free PDF called From Stethoscope to Startup, which is an 11-page guide in the show notes full of practical help and advice. This is your roadmap to kickstarting your journey with us. Enjoy the show. Today on the podcast, I'm delighted to welcome Sarae Pratt, who is a leadership and development coach and trainer who is determined to create a world in which women are empowered by joy without guilt, shame, or judgment to lead, inspire, and create positive change in their worlds. As you will hear, Sarae's experience spans over 20 years and across industries, including healthcare, consulting, and higher education. She began her career as an aeronautical engineer before shifting into designing employee skills, progress, and talent programs. In 2020, she waved goodbye to employment and launched her own business. So, Sarae Pratt's random fact is that in her first job, she managed to break the Eurofighter Typhoon, which is a plane. Is that correct?
It is a plane. It's a very dinky little one-person plane.
How did you manage to break it and why were you there?
So my educational background is I graduated in aeronautical engineering. So first job was, let's go build a plane. The plane I happened to choose was a European project. So different parts of the plane are designed and built in different countries. And then we have to put it all together like Lego. So depending on which IT system we were using, you got different measurements. When we put it all together, from a design engineer perspective, it was quite clear that the legs weren't going to fit in the holes in the wing. Small problem if you want to take off and fly kind of in a fuel efficient way. You normally tuck the wings, the legs up into the wings. Yeah, not going to happen.
Brilliant. You don't put that on your CV then?
I don't put it on my CV, that's true. And, you know, what was I, 24 or something? Yeah, it was like, oh, holy shit, I've done this wrong. I've messed up here. And then I can remember my entire male team sitting behind me going, oh. And then these like flurry of conversations happening over my head with me going, I'm going to be fired. I'm going to be fired. I put a 3-year delay on it.
Oh my goodness, that's priceless. Right, we have got a lot to talk about. We've got to cover a little bit about that aeronautical engineering into leadership, which is why we're here to discuss. But thank you for coming. It's really, really lovely to chat to you. And I have a couple of examples of conversations like this on the podcast where I've basically been introduced to somebody by somebody else that I really trust. And we've just hit record and we've just chatted because we were connected by Charlotte Maldari, who is on one of the earlier episodes that I will reference below. You've been working with her and your LinkedIn profile. I've been doing the same. She's great. She said, you two have got to meet. Here we are. So just tell me a little bit about what you do now. Obviously, aeronautical engineering is in the past. We might come back to that. But what do you do now?
Effectively, I help engineer businesses and I help people find their way forward through them. Specifically, I tend to work with women. I do work with guys and people of all genders and preferences, but mostly I work with women. I am a woman. I've lived that journey. And it's two things. It's one about systemically changing the workplace so that we can all thrive. not all burn out, not all mask who we are, not all have to kind of play the game in order to be successful. And second, to help individuals find what is their passion and their purpose on the planet that can be in a workspace, whether that's self-employed or employed. How can they do that in ways that feel true to themselves, so they can finally do it without the mask? They can finally do it, and if they want to be potty mouths, be potty mouths. If they want to do it in their pajamas, do it in their pajamas. If they want to do it all over social media or not, or
Yeah.
I help them find the courage and the confidence to be that creative person, to be that innovative person, to be that provocative person, whether they're delivering VA services because they're brilliant at organizational systems, or they're leading spiritual communities, or they're in charities where they are flipping the needle upside down on a social change impact project, or they're actually, I do some work with the Royal Marsden with the breast care unit, where they're handling really heavy emotional loads and care deeply about what they're doing. I think that's probably true of most of my clients, actually.
Mm.
Or they're in big four consultancies and they lead billions of pounds of business, and super smart people that are ambitious and driven, and they're changing the government and they're changing society and they're impacting the way that work works. I'm really lucky, and I love that. We talk to niche, aren't we, as business owners? I don't really have a really strong, the person is doing this niche. It's the person knows that there's more and they want to give more without giving all of themselves.
And this, like the way that you've given those examples, I guess that's happened organically over a period of time of doing this. Those different opportunities have opened up to you. How did you go from aeronautical engineering into this different space, this leadership space, coaching space, like you say, helping businesses engineer
Yeah.
their needs? How did that happen, that
It's not a
initial
logical jump, is it? When you
Well,
like,
yeah.
how did that work? It worked because I took a role for a year. When I finished engineering, I moved back to the UK, and I took a role with a charity, and I was able to do more of a people development, people engagement type role, looking at change and looking at how do we develop the organisation within a region. And that was a bit of a gamble. And it was like, I'm really passionate about what they do. It's only a year's contract while I look for what I want to do and where I want to do it. And I got, I think, about 3 months in, and I was like, oh, I need to ask for Thursday afternoons off so I can go back to university part time and requalify. So I did a master's in human resource management. I went broad because I didn't know where I wanted to focus. Like, it felt safe at that point, at that age, to go, well, if I know about HR and law and in recruitment and development and reward and payroll and stuff, I've got choices. It took me probably about 10 minutes to work out I can do sickness and absence, and I can do an investigation and a disciplinary. Intellectually, that's possible. Doesn't light my fire.
Yeah.
I went down the training route. Training, as we used to call it in the antique times. I went into training and training development.
Is
And then
that coaching now? Is training
now
coaching?
yeah. Then we went to learning and development. Then we went to people development and talent development, leadership development, career development. All of those different titles. To now, I still talk about coaching and training. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I offer one-to-one services. I offer programs for groups of people, whether that's open to the general public or it's within an organisation.
And you work for yourself now?
I do now, and it's been through, actually, my next job post-charity was in the healthcare sector. I worked for a facilities management company that looked after lots of NHS outlets, can I call them that? Everything from outpatient units to GP practices to big major hospitals. So I got to see a little bit of your world from a non-medical perspective. I guess that flipped. I went into consultancy after that, and then into international business schools before I kind of went, in the middle of COVID, I can't do this anymore. I just need to get out and I need to do my own thing.
Yeah.
So this is year 5 of being my own boss in its 100% nature.
Okay.
Employment can be.
And that is something we are going to talk about, because before we hit the record button, we were talking about the difference between being in an organization as a leader and then being self-employed, solopreneurs, starting something different as a leader. And I'd love to talk more with you about that. But you talked about women wearing masks, you talked about needing the courage and the confidence. Is that something that you see lacking a lot in the women that you work with?
Lacking, I find a really difficult word. I think all women are courageous. You know, the fact that we leave our front doors and we travel and we get to places is courageous in a lot of the places that we need to be. The fact that we go through childbirth is courageous. The fact that we date people is courageous. We put our hearts on the line. Now, that's not a uniquely female experience or feminine experience. The workplace came around, particularly in this third sector kind of environment where we've come away from agricultural work and piecemeal work. It came out of men going into offices and into organized structures. So it was designed about the man, a bit like the car is designed around the male safety model. There wasn't somebody that went in a really Machiavellian, how, designing it that way and saying, we're going to make it really hard for women to be part of this place. It wasn't that. It's just custom and practice has built it. And we've added in little bits along the way that make it easier, like flexible working, like enhanced maternity leave. And some of the new policies that are coming in this year are brilliant. But we haven't really changed the way work works. It's 9 to 5 predominantly. I know in healthcare that's a little bit different, but the shift pattern hasn't really changed or adapted for women, or in a way that makes it easier for women to stay inside those kind of careers. We haven't really changed the way that we reward things. It's on metrics. We talked about it's GCSE results day today. I remember my grandparents going, you get a fiver for like each grade A. And that was like a lot of money back in, the dinosaur years. We haven't really got out of that. We prioritize in terms of what we recognize at work as typically masculine ways of behaving. We don't tend to prioritize what it is that's the feminine way that we bring into leadership. We want collaboration and cooperation, and we want harmony, and we want to be able to nurture people to be their best and to grow and hit their full potential. Well, they're feminine skills, but they're often sort of wrapped up into delivers results, which is usually evidenced by I made this much money, or I saved this much time, or I saved patient hours, or whatever it is. It doesn't tend to be I sat with Jo once a week and Jo got better at doing X, Y, Z. She's now got
Yeah.
more confidence. She does it on her own and she's flying. Both of those are really important and valuable in the workplace. So the courage is there. It's not recognised and rewarded in our natural way, would be what I would say.
Yeah. And it's not measurable, or is it measurable?
I think it's harder to measure. How do you measure harmony?
Yeah.
How do you measure innovation, creativity, collaboration, compassion? All super important in the workplace. Super important in the workplace, but really sticky to trying to go, well, you're better than they are, so you get more points on your score at the end of the year than you do.
This is really interesting stuff, isn't it? And you're talking about the workplace, and I think when you're, predominantly, maybe people are thinking about that corporate space, but think about how this can be put into your own GP practices, healthcare settings as consultants, particularly in male-dominated specialties. But I'm also really interested in these feminine ways of leading when it comes to starting up on your own, because so many medics that I speak to and that I support and that I help, many of them have got children, young families. They are wanting more from their professional lives. They've maybe been in the same job for quite some time. They've maybe retrained in something else along the side of, something has sparked or re-sparked, should I say, that curiosity and that love of learning. And they say to me, I want to have that flexibility and freedom by running my own business. And yes, there is a huge amount of flexibility and freedom that is available when you are in control of your own time. But leading ourselves when we are working on our own is a struggle. And I'd love to talk to you about that, because I know so many medics struggle with time management, procrastination. You know, what do I do today? Let's talk about that in terms of work and in terms of all the hats you were talking about us wearing.
Brilliant. Let's go back a step first. One of the things I know about the medics that I work with are they are deeply passionate about other people. They're in they are driven by a desire to serve and to make things better and to fix. And I'm very glad that is a trait of medics. Please carry on doing that. Don't take that away. What we tend to be less good at, particularly ambitious, smart women, and all medics are, we tend to be less good at doing that for ourselves. You know, we will go to the effort of making sure our kids eat a healthy meal, and then we'll eat the bits around the edge and snack on something not so great out the fridge. Or we know at lunchtime we definitely didn't get that healthy lunchtime meal because we've been in a rush, and so we're drinking the protein smoothie or whatever it is. We tend to be less good at being compassionate about ourselves. So business is a bumpy road. You know, this is my 5th year, and I thought this year, and I said to my business coach, this is the year I understand it. Couldn't be more wrong. It's yet another unique, different year, and I'm still learning, like, what the heck do I do when this happens? Bringing compassion to ourselves when we've had very structured, very target-driven careers in organizations that are regulated, whether they're in the true form of regulation or in terms of legally. We've had all these boundaries put around us that kind of limit and give us a benchmark for what we're doing. I think when we become self-employed, that disappears. And whilst you can say to yourself, oh, I want to make 50,000 this year, I want to be a 6-figure business and work 4 hours a week or whatever, some of the magic that I've yet to find, but it's certainly out there according to social media.
Yeah. From a hammock in Bali, don't forget.
Yeah, cocktail in hand. Let's go the whole hog. The ability to be compassionate for ourselves during that journey and to really care about our needs, not just the pursuit of targets. I feel like that's a really big shift. And we've had this, maybe not constant, but we've had from the little girl era where it's like good girls do their homework, good girls get 10 out of 10 in their spelling, Sarah, through to, you know, it's, you know, 11 plus exams for some parts of the country in the UK. It's then, you know, what can you take for GCSE depends on what you get in that magical summer exam that you take when you're what, 13, maybe just heading into 14. That predefines your life. You know, in that moment, I didn't get biology, or I did get biology. I got German, but I didn't get French. We've had that structure in place for a really long time, and we've had a lot of people telling us this is what good looks like, this is what acceptable looks like. You take that into university, you take that into your career. When you become self-employed, who's telling you that? You have to tell yourself that. You have to go, I got the same as last year plus a bit. That's a step in the right direction. That's a positive win. Maybe it's not 6 figures in the hammock in Bali with the cocktail this year, but it's still out there. I can still get it if that's what I truly want, if that's the measure of success. I mean, that's a whole different podcast. What is the measure of success? We could talk for that. And for me, it's that piece of self-leadership where we have to go, if I was talking to a colleague, what would I really say? You're knackered and exhausted. Take the afternoon off and go to bed. Your brain is fuzzy. Go for a walk and get some fresh air. Do a handstand and get the blood back to your head. Go and scream at a song at the top of your voice and let out the frustration of the whole thing. And then come back to your desk and try and work it out. Be compassionate to yourself, darling. We tend to be less good at that because we weren't allowed to do that at work. Or we were allowed to do that in little micro, like go for a cup of tea, love. Go and sit in the staff room for 10 minutes. we weren't allowed some of that expression of ourselves. So I think compassion is one of the big things around self-leadership. And I think it's also that we have to tell ourselves in our own self-talk that we're talking ourselves out of stuff sometimes. In the workplace, you talk to a manager, you talk to a colleague, you sit on a bench outside the front door and go, and a mate says, it's going to be all right, darling, you got it. It's cool. We all go through this. In your own business, that can feel quite lonely. So self-leadership becomes around, it sounds trite, but self-care, self-compassion, because that's where you get your self-worth and your self-value and your self-esteem and the confidence to go out there and go, hey, you knew me as a GP, you knew me as a nurse practitioner, you know me as a physio, now you need to know me like this. And I'm still just as good, and I'm still so excited to be with you and do this stuff for you, and I know the results are going to be amazing. That feels a bit like you're standing outside in Trafalgar Square naked.
Absolutely. And that is the biggest thing that I see again and again, this visibility, being able to go out there and not having the backing of, this is me, but, I work for the NHS and you'll find me on, in clinic corridor E and someone else is going to pay your bill. It's going from that to, this is a thing, I've built this, I am this, I stand for this. And actually I need to go out there and tell people because no one else is going to do it for me.
Yeah, tell them and then take money from them. Like, oh my God, we there are very few businesses where we actually handle cash. We handle transactions in that kind of way where it goes in my bank account. Ooh, so money is a big one, but visibility, yeah, definitely. And it's allowing yourself sometimes to be in beginner mode.
Yeah.
You become a real specialist in whatever career you've come from, but particularly in medicine, you become such a specialist in your field. Even as a GP, I think that is still a specialist skill set, really. Allowing yourself to be a beginner again as a business owner. You mentioned procrastination. I certainly did a lot of that. I faffed about with this colour of orange or that colour of this blue or that blue on my website. I'm now thinking about pink and lime green as it happens, but
that's mine. I love pink and lime green.
It's great. And it's allowing yourself to go, well, maybe I didn't quite get it right, and maybe I've grown into something different.
Yeah.
Just the way like our fashion trends, what I wanted to wear at 15 is not what I want to wear today. How do we allow ourselves to evolve and go, yeah, the start of my business, that was right. That was the product, that was the service I wanted to offer. Now I want to do it differently. And allowing us to keep going back to that beginner mode.
Yeah, you're never going to feel the same amount of confidence and, ability to get it right. I mean, I get sort of an not imposter syndrome, but I feel uncomfortable every time I go to work because I'm like, right, another day, like anything can come in. I hope, I can manage everything that comes in. And I don't get that so much in my business work now, but I certainly at the beginning did. And the idea is that you're supposed to look back on your first social media posts, your first newsletters, your first attempt at a website and feel, 5 years later, you look back and go, oh my God, what was I thinking? It's awful. And that means it's great. That means you've started. That means you've got on that journey of doing and improving, which is the only way you can get this right. You can't just build in a dark room something that's wonderful and hope that people will come when you get it out there. It just doesn't work like that. So I love this self-leadership. Like it's a self-awareness, isn't it, as well? It's like, how do I work? Am I better in the morning? Am I better in the evening? What sort of people do I need around me? What's going to fill my cup? What gives me energy? What really doesn't? And even just giving yourself that time to understand yourself a bit more. How often do you see people, I certainly know that I needed a complete break, but how often do you see people sort of just needing to like step back completely? It's almost like their brains are so full that actually shoving a business on top of it would be a disaster. Do you see that and sort of encourage people to stop?
Yeah, and I think that's in the pre-business bit where people are starting the side hustle. I'm doing my full-time job or almost full-time job, and I'm adding these bits. I'm qualifying as a coach, I'm qualifying as a Pilates instructor, I'm qualifying as a XYZ practitioner. and they do that a bit on the side, and then the side wants to, there's a bit of activity, and like there's some potential, oh, well then I quit my job. Then we
Yeah.
go from something that occupied a few hours is now going to occupy your week. That can feel like quite a leap and a different kind of overwhelm. It's the overwhelm of, if I'm really successful, how the hell will I cope with that? There is just me. At that point, it's often just me. And you go, oh, I'll get a VA. That they're like, I'll get someone to do my socials. And then it's like, well, actually, at the start, you are the IT department, the HR department, the marketing department, the event planning department, you're everything in your business, right down to the tea lady. A little bit later on, you can start to make choices about who else do I bring in, and is that part-time, couple of hours a month retainer, all those kind of things, once you've got the ball rolling. But at the beginning, it's quite lonely. So success, I think, is an overwhelm as much as, what if this totally fails? Because that's humiliating. I've been a really successful whatever, and I gave it all up for something that I clearly love, but I can't make a business, I can't pay the bills. That's a different kind of overwhelm. And both of those, I think, create what you're calling the imposter syndrome, create that sort of inner critic piece of like, I can't do it. This is not for me. If I do it, what the heck? How do I follow on from that act? In a way that we don't have that so much, I think, in the workplace, because typically there's a salary that comes in regardless. Typically there's a workload plan of some description, not always fair and not always realistic, but there is some level of planning that says you can handle this many patients or this many surgeries or this many appointments. There is some thinking. It's not right in the NHS, I totally get that. So not right in the NHS, but there is some in our own businesses. There isn't. I was hoping to take next Tuesday off. Now I realise there's a pitch that needs writing. I'm going to work in the afternoon because that client and that piece of work is really important. I'm really engaged with it. I will give up what was going to be my time off on Tuesday afternoon to do that.
Yeah.
I have to manage that.
Yeah. Yeah. And equally today, on the other flip side, I was supposed to be I was booked in to do a GP surgery today, and it's results day, and I was like, oh, I definitely can't do that, and so I just cancelled it. It was a locum shift, and I thought, well, I know he's going to be out with his friends in the afternoon, so I'll just be on Zoom between 11 and 3, and I'll spend 12 and 3, and I'll spend the morning with him. And today, we went down for a swim after the results with all the kids, and walking back up, I thought, I am hugely proud of all my kids, but it's not about results. It's about those moments of time that I can then witness and spend with them. And then I can jump and do 3 hours work this afternoon and do some more this evening. So it's that flexibility and freedom does come, doesn't it? Once you start moving into this business space, and you can, what I call, build that life first business, your children and your non-negotiables, and then you build a business around it. But you talked about, before we hit record, you talked about women having this multi-focus thing. And I do feel like I've got 4 kids, and I'm still, doing the day job and helping lots of people. I am this kind of, you talked about, most medics having the desire to make things better. I am the ultimate fixer, sometimes to a point, to a fault. How do we, where do we go wrong, or how do we improve this sort of juggling ball multi-focus thing that most of my clients and myself seem to do, and I'm sure you do?
Yeah, I think there's 2 things that you're raising in there. One is that, we go back to evolution. The caveman went out with a spear and went hunting. The women went out together in a pack with baskets, with children strapped to their hips. And we did that together. There's our multi-focus. We were doing child minding, community activity, finding food and firewood for, to sate people's hunger and need for warmth. We were kind of juggling a lot of stuff, and we always have. And I think now we're in a world where women can come out of their homes and go to work. I know there are parts of the world that are saying differently at the moment. In the UK, it's perfectly reasonable for a woman to wish to have a career and to act upon it, and to be the primary parent. And I'm not saying that disrespectfully to dads, but typically mums are the people that get on the WhatsApp group with the PTA that's like, we need you all to bring in a can of beans tomorrow, or you were going to dress up like Ronald Dahl characters, or whatever it is. It's like, when do I find that by tomorrow? I'm at work, I'm the other end of the country, what am I supposed to do? I've definitely had a bit of those. That mental load, and we measured it during COVID, and COVID was hideous for medics. I totally get that. The UK's National Statistics Office looked at it and questioned a vast sort of sample population of women across the UK during and after. For women, the mental workload had shot up enormously because we were trying to do homeschooling, do our day jobs. We might have been able to take our kids to a local school if that was possible for key workers. We were juggling the chaos of work and the load of work. And then we went home to have relatives saying, "Oh, I'm not putting a mask on. I don't want to have the vaccine." Oh my God. That dip hasn't come back to what it was pre-COVID yet. Because kids of that era learn this is what mum does. Because dad was on his Zoom room and typically locked away. Now, not all dads, not all mums, I'm not suggesting that, but the workload at a population level for women hasn't come back down. So we're still juggling dentist appointments. Oh my God, braces. I wish you were all children with good teeth. Brace appointments are a ball ache.
Yeah.
We're juggling all the different stakeholders at work. We're then juggling a side hustle or an embryonic business, or even into our own full-time self-employment. We're juggling being 5 different roles in it because, I've got to fix the website today, and I need to make a new form, and I need to get in and send an email out, and I need to schedule some marketing, and I've actually got to talk to a client today. Whew. And I've already put in my non-negotiables that become a bit of a chore. I'm going to get my swimming, or I'm going to go to yoga, or I'm going to do some breath work and meditation before I start work, and I'm going to light a candle and get a teacup and do some journaling. And I know I sound like I'm being naughty about that. They're all valid things to do.
Yeah.
They become a chore because they become a task. They stop serving us. They become another thing for us to beat ourselves up with, or another thing to hide behind. I'm so busy, there isn't time for me to do anything else. There isn't time for me to...
Well, that's what I spend my time doing. I had a client earlier who's a meditation teacher, and I said, I am your ideal client. I know I need to meditate. I know it would be really good for my brain. I know I like journaling, I find really helpful, but I don't make myself do it regularly. I always go for my walk, but it gets shorter if I've got other things to do. I'll just take the short way because I could do that email. And I cut corners on those non-negotiables that I know make me much better as a parent, as a partner, as a business owner, as a human. But those are the things that get dumped because I don't have time for them.
Yeah, and it's partly that programming again. We're programmed to be the last in the line. So the martyr archetype, if you think about it from that perspective, I'm the eldest of all the grandchildren in my family, and I can remember I had to set the behaviour. Like, you're the role model, Sarah, of the girls. So we're half boys, half girls. We're a neat split, but I'm the eldest of all of us. You've got to help put dinner on the table. You've got to help take the plates away. And I'd be like, well, the boys are outside playing football. It's not fair. But we're taught that that's what good girls do. That's to be accepted, to be loved. That's part of it. You go to the back of the queue. I'm sure you've done it, where you do the kid's birthday party, and by the end of it, you realise you haven't had a drink and you didn't eat anything, but everybody else is sated. And I think that's really true when we become self-employed. It's really easy to step into that martyr, I think, really disempowering place to come from, because it's not about me, it's about my clients. I'm here to serve. I feel good when I serve. And that's all true. I have that entirely in my business. I've got one lady that's taken to message me. She's going through a really bumpy bit, and she's messaged me around the clock, and I will answer sometimes knowing that I shouldn't really be answering at 9 o'clock at night, but I wanted to have a good night's sleep. And if I can just give her a little emoji and she goes, okay, it's all right, I'm heard, I'm seen, I do that. Now, do I do that on a regular basis? No. How do we get out of martyr? We have to find the opposite. We have to find an empowering way of being from a feminine. So I work with a group of archetypes that are specifically feminine leadership types. So the queen, the mother, the lover, the warrioress and the sorceress. And you go, well, they don't sound like very worky things. Well, the sorceress is all about creation. She's all about innovation. She's all about trusting that little niggle in your tummy that, like, yeah, this is the thing to go after. It's the warrioress. She gets shit done. That's her job. Like, she leads the troops into battle, and a specific battle. Not all the battles. She knows how to time it. Mother is about nurture and development and growth and compassion. Lover is about the charisma and the, like, ooh, come and play with me. It's going to be fun. Queen is the most obvious because she's the sovereign. She sets the vision and she says, this is where we're heading. This is why we're doing this. This is the benefits of doing this. Do you want to come on board? Do you want to be part of this? So she's great at social buy-in. She's great at creating loyalty with her realm, her people. All of those are really important in self-employment. They're important in employment. I think they're really, really, really important when you're self-employed because there isn't a training and development part. There isn't a mentor that goes, Joe, I watched you have that conversation. Have you ever thought about, like, why that bit didn't land? There's nobody to do that. We are literally flying by the seats of our pants in solo, which is why the disempowering archetypes pop up. I can't.
What are the other disempowering archetypes?
So I call them Superwoman. She's the one that's got, I think 1980s working women where they've got, the big hairdo and the shoulder pads and the lippy, and they've got the baby under one arm and the briefcase and the mobile phone. That's what I mean by Superwoman. Driven by fear that it's all going to go wrong. She'll be found out. She won't be good enough. So she does everything and burns herself out in the process. Victim. I can't do it. I don't know enough. I'm never going to know enough. Nobody will help me. I'm all on my own. And then the other one is bitch. She gets really angry. And that may not be within her own business. It might be when you open the door and go, who left the toilet seat up again? I've told you. Or, the dog's ate the dinner off the table. I've had that one. Bitch can also be it yourself. You're so stupid. It's that negative self-talk that we sometimes do. You're so stupid. You can't cope. You're never going to do this. You're not as good as Joe or Sarah or whoever the next person is that's in your space. They're so easy to fall into because solo employment can be so terribly lonely. When you're working in a organization, whether that's a GP practice where you're a relatively small number of people or you're in a massive 7-story hospital, there's people around. Now, we don't always like all of the people. I totally accept that. But there's people around that you can, like, do the eye roll it with, or that can go, do you just need to vent that at me, love, and get it off your tits? Kind of, we don't have those coffee cooler moments. We don't have those like the person next to you where you can go, oh my God, you won't believe what I just saw. Or you won't believe the question that I've never been asked that before. And we all have that, that's a nice surprise sometimes in our long careers. When you're self-employed, you can be sat on your own in a room 8 hours a day, more than 8 hours a day. You could be sat in a hotel room because the service you provide is local to the client. Well, solo travel to weird hotels around the UK, trust me, is not all that. It's not even exciting when you're doing it around Europe and the Middle East. The hotels
It does sound really exciting for 1 or 2 nights when nobody wants you to cook baked beans for them or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
but yeah.
How do we move forward from there?
We
have to find the ways of behaving that allow you to lead your business from compassion, from courage, from nurture, from spaciousness. Just the pause to be able to go, what the heck is it I'm doing this week? To get our head straight and go, does that fit in with everything else I need to do? Can I flex? Allowing yourself to flex. I have this lovely phrase that I call plant pot time. You can't see it off the screen. There's a big plant next to on the end of my desk, and I talk to the plant. I'm not really talking to the plant. I'm just talking through and working through in my head. What are the priorities this week? What are my must-dos? And get really specific. if I do nothing but these 3 things this week, that's what I have to do. I've got this many meetings this week, or I'm delivering this program this week. Oh, and I need to get away early because I want to go and do that thing at the cinema with so and so, or I want to get to Pilates, or I want to do the groceries early because it's a bank holiday and I don't want to be in there during the bank holiday. They're all my non-negotiables or non-movable items, and then I can look at what else comes around it.
Yeah.
Or
I love
can't.
this.
It has to move forward.
I could talk to you for days about this.
Well, I give you my tip. I use a passion planner, and I
Right.
use the weekly one. So you can download the free trial version of it off their website. You don't actually have to buy one. And you can print your own. It's very exciting. I buy one because I like stationery. That's a bit of a geek thing for me. I like the smell of new books. I stopped doing daily planning and moved to weekly planning for my business. And I decide every morning where I fill the gaps in my schedule. So a little bit like you were saying today with your plans, I knew I had a call first thing. I had 3 hours of gap. I had a coaching call, our call, and I've got another coaching call afterwards. What did I fill those 3 hours with? I looked down the to-do list. I said, what's most important? And what do I most feel like doing? And I fill the gaps that way. When I did it daily, having to carry stuff over that I was trying to remember that must get done before Friday, I felt that really draining. Really draining. When I was employed, daily planning was essential because I had a team of people. I had internal and external stakeholders in a way that is very different to self-employment. My biggest stakeholder is me. And am I actually enjoying the way I'm doing it and what I'm doing and the people I'm doing it with?
I think there's so much that comes up in what you've said then, so much about the archetypes. And what I'm hearing, and you've mentioned it a couple of times now, is something that I think really sits with why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's the requirements for people and community for as you build your businesses. So, you know, that water cooler moment, coffee morning, coffee moment that you would get at work. I feel like my Zoom calls with my community gives that opportunity for people to go, oh my God, this is driving me insane. And I think we've got to find our people, haven't we, as solopreneurs, as people running our own thing, potentially on Zoom all day without any interaction with anybody. We've got to find our groups. So, you know, how important do you think community is to business owners?
Super, super, like beyond super important. And I think it's twofold. I think it's important to be around other entrepreneurs, whether they're in a similar line of work to you or something different. Often there's something really like, oh, well, I wouldn't do it that way in my business, or that isn't a problem in my business. So what's my version of that? And it helps you just think more broadly about you and how you're doing in your business and what you're doing in your business. And I think it's important to hang out with people that do something like you, not from a, ooh, no, the competitors, important, but there's collaboration opportunities and there's this in my world, there's a new scheduling tool out there. Oh, has anybody tried it? Like, you know, we don't have to use Calendly. There's Acuity or there's Planly or sometimes you get like a whiff of like a new way of doing it or a new piece of technology that will help, or this platform's dead for that, use this tactic. Some of that kind of trusted advisor piece around. Yeah. So my space, coaching and training, I hang out with a lot of people that are in HR, and I hang out with a lot of people that are in people development because they do something analogous to me. They know what the latest trends are. They know what the latest software is. They know what's happening in terms of lengths and durations of training, budgets and all that kind of stuff. That's important. So I hang out with the London Coaching Group, for example. They meet online and we meet in person every now and again. And it's just nice to sit in a room and go, how's it for you? What's happening? And somebody will do a key speech. You know, we'll have a kind of a learning theme this month, that sort of thing. That's really important to me. I'm also in a business mastermind, and we're all completely different. There's a lady in America that does something very similar to me, but she's America and I'm Europe, so we play in different ponds. That's great because she gets it when I talk about my challenges. But she's also great at going, come on, Sarah, what's the story you're telling yourself here? And helping me unpick it because she knows it. Whereas I have a floral artist in my pod group. I'm a jam jar floral artist. I'm literally buy it from the supermarket, take it out of the plastic, stick it in a jar. I am not good at that at all. I love it. It's beautiful. And I could admire. I don't have the eye that Leanne has, where she goes, "Oh yeah, I've been buying disco balls this week," and I'm like, "What?" And she's making terrariums out of disco balls. I think it's just brilliant. But we have different issues, and I don't have the kind of zero contract staff that she has, and the people management piece of it. I'm really glad I don't have that, to be honest. But it's really interesting hearing like I have people that do work for me because they set up the room at a client, for example, or they provide the lunch at the event, or they handle meet and greets at the doors and the venue, that sort of thing. I don't employ them; they don't work for me, but I have to manage them and I have to set the expectation and the how I want it to happen. She at least has a contract with her people, so it's that sort of thing that those two things I think are really important. And then the second piece is it's just good to hang out with people. Take your place of work and take it somewhere different. We've just come out of A-level season in our house, and it's like, go study in the bath. If that feels good lying in the bottom of a dry bath, go and do it. If you want to go and sit under the apple tree, go and sit under like it doesn't matter where you work. Yes, of course, when we're doing private consultations and that kind of thing, yes, that's important. You can't do that. But go and work from the library, go and work from a co-working space, go and work in, I'm based in London. I like going and sitting in the National Theatre. And occasionally you spot a famous person and it's like, whoa, makes my day. You know, David Tennant walks past or something. But it's sitting with other people that are working.
Yeah. I love a library for that reason. Love
Yeah.
a library. I've got my favourite libraries that I've always worked at, but they just, like you say, just once a week, taking yourself and your computer and your whatever you need and just moving can make the world of difference.
And you might just have that little sideways conversation of like, can you look after my computer? I'm going to the toilet. And you come back and you say thank you. And he's like, sorry so much for interrupting. And they go, no, actually, I need a break. I'm going to get a coffee. Do you want a coffee?
Yeah.
And you just have a little human interaction
Yeah.
from somebody else that's kind of doing what you're doing differently. Yeah. But it's like, yeah, I get it. Let's have a chat. Let's just be
That's a
you.
great point. Absolutely. Brilliant. I mean, I think you're fantastic. I think there's so much juice here. I would love to talk to you endlessly particularly about the archetypes thing. And I'm just addressing my inner superwoman, martyr, victim, and bitch. And I am currently turning them into the queen, the sorcerer, the warrior, and the mother, was it?
The sorceress, the lover, the warrior, the mother, the queen.
Love her, love it. And I'm assuming that there's transitions between those all the time in our lives, and
Yeah.
you know, at different times of our life. Certainly, in the sort of child rearing time, we might be different to the menopausal time, which might be different to the 20s. I think there's a whole nother conversation there.
Yeah.
But
Because our vision changes. What did you
yeah,
want at 20? I wanted to go travel the world and make some money because I was broke from being a student for such a long time.
yeah,
I did 7 years, differently to how a medic does, but I did 7 years in total. I was absolutely broke. I just needed to earn some money, but I also wanted to travel. I did a lot of travel when I was a consultant, all around Europe and the Middle East. And I got really bored of it. And it's like, I just want to be at home now for a bit. I moved to business schools where they brought the international audience to me. I didn't have to keep going to them. And that was lovely, not leaving my house for, basically 6 months of the year. It is different. Right now, I'm doing a bit more travel. I'm off to Sweden in a couple of weeks to do some work there. And I'm really excited. It's going to be a real novelty, kind of like, woo, get out of the house and like get out of London and do some work. Yeah, my Swedish is pretty rubbish. We're going to do it in English. So now I'm doing a bit more again because actually I can be away and nobody really, people do care. Nobody really cares that I'm not here. That's okay. So my queen is challenging a different religion. She's taken me in a different way. I didn't really have a queen when I was in my 20s, if I'm really honest. I had a bit of a workplace queen in terms of I could be the boss at work, but not for me. Self-leadership.
we have all of these things at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's how do you access it and are you pulling on the right one at the right time?
Fascinating stuff here. I'm just thinking about my pathological need to have a mortgage and settle down, between the ages of 28 and 32. And now my pathological need to just own one pair of shoes, one trainer, and wish everything fitted in a van and disappearing off and traveling for the rest of my life. And those two are just different parts of my archetypes coming out. That's all.
Yeah.
It's okay.
We didn't know what we didn't know, and now we do. And we're going to keep finding stuff out, That's the exciting thing. The journey doesn't end.
So, Sarah, it's been brilliant having you here today. How do people get in touch with you? Where's the best place for them to connect with you? And obviously, we'll be linking you in the show notes as well.
Fantastic. So I am most active on LinkedIn from a professional, serious perspective. Just be really careful. So my spelling is Sarae Pratt. If you put a H, I'm a French porn star, and that's probably not the sort of support you're looking for. I have disappointed a couple of clients in not being her. We don't look alike. I'm on Instagram, or very creatively, my website, saraepratt.com, and that's where you can find out about my coaching.
Wonderful. Thank you again for coming along. We'll see you soon. I hope this episode has sparked some new ideas or challenged your thinking. Transitioning from medicine to business is not easy. It's about adapting our skills while embracing the unknowns of entrepreneurship. It can be nerve-wracking, but remember, you are not alone on this journey. Please feel free to reach out to me via direct message on LinkedIn or Instagram, or just shoot me an email at joe@bendylegs.com for support. And don't forget to grab the free PDF from the show notes, From Stethoscope to Startup, which is your go-to guide and resource for diving into entrepreneurship. Many thanks for tuning in. I will see you next time. Thanks for spending your precious time with me.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.